Everybody makes fun of Bruno, but he is in Elite 4 in the Kanto and Johto games. Doesn't that mean he's one of the very best, like no one ever was? We want to find out, is Bruno strong enough to beat Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green as a hardcore Nuzlocke? We use the usual Nuzlocke rules and have a level cap, that's basically it. We also play on Fire Red, but it doesn't matter at all. As usual, we meet the professor, call ourselves the one true name, start in our room and change the battle style to set mode. Even though we have such a nice body, we are not allowed to go outside alone. Since Machamp is in a way our ace, we choose the starter Machop, while the rival chooses Charmander. The idea was that flying is very effective against us, but as it turns out, Charizard has a big problem against the rock moves. Also, we lost many runs, but we check out the one which was good enough. We start with the Machop, which has the gentle nature, which will be important later on. The battle against the rival was very easy, because Machop is just very good. We don't have a new encounter before Brock, but since we have Low Kick and Karate Chop, the battle is quite easy. Against Geodude we use Karate Chop until Geodude is defeated, no big deal. Afterwards we see Onix, and we use 2 Low Kicks and the Rock Snake is defeated as well. With that we have our first badge and we can start catching some Pokemon. We find a Nidoran male on Route 3, which we need for Hidden Machine Cut.
Hold up, wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Why do we use a Nidoran, since Bruno didn't use any of the Nidoran Evoline? Quite simple. In the first episode of the anime, Ash watches a battle on television in which a character similar to Bruno has a Nidorino, and that's the only way we can use Cut to continue the story. Of course, we won't evolve it any further than that. And right before Mount Moon we find the hidden item Person Berry, which will play a big part in our strategy later on. In Mount Moon we find Geodude. Bruno never really had a golem, but he had an Alolan golem in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. That's good enough. While running around, Nidoran evolves into Nidorino, which is his final evolution for this run. Inside Mount Moon we find the TM for Thief, which we might need in order to win a specific battle. Right after Mount Moon we find 2 Karate Dude Bros, which are obviously weaker than us, but we receive Mega Kick and Mega Punch for our Machop, which we need in just a bit. Even though we are an Elite 4 member, we can't fight Misty just yet. We have to do some stuff first. One of those things will be battling the rival at Nugget Bridge. He starts with Pidgeotto and we start with Geodude. We receive a bit of damage but don't see a sand attack, which is very nice. Next is Charmander, but I assume he misclicked or something. We see a Growl and an Ember, but Charmander stands no chance against Magnitude. Abra comes next, but it has no attacking moves, which means the battle is basically over. We switch into Machop, beat Abra, and last is Rattata, which doesn't have a chance against our powerful, well-balanced, dare I say it, perfect team. With that we can move on and get the stuff we need for Misty. We talk to the Nerd Bell to get the SSN ticket. Do you even lift, bro? After that we beat the Rocket Grunt to receive the TM for Dig and can move on to Route 6 in order to find another hidden item in Citrus Berry. With that we have all parts we need in order to beat Misty. Okay, why is Misty a problem? We have no special defense, no very effective moves, don't resist water attacks, and on top of that, we can't afford to lose a single Pokemon here. Geodude is just a one hit, so that one won't matter at all. Nidorino is needed for cut, and Machop is our ace. We can't lose our ace this early in the game, can we? That means we have to win this battle without losing a single Pokemon. Just keep in mind that I lost here a lot of times. We start with Machop against Staryu. I hope Mega Kick one-hit KOs. That way we can safely move on to Starmie. It uses Harden, which is fine. Mega Kick hits and it survives, which means Machop is too weak. Keep in mind, Mega Kick just has a 75% chance to hit, which is very low. So we need to KO Staryu very fast. Misty uses a Super Potion and we hope it was a range, but it survives again. Maybe Misty uses another Super Potion, but she did not. And we get hit with the Water Pulse, which is fine thanks to our additional special defense. Mega Kick hits and we KO Staryu. We receive a level up, but it's fine. The level cap is only for the start of the battle. Last up is Starmie, and here we go. Starmie uses Water Pulse and puts us in a danger zone. Seismic Toss hits for 22 damage, but Citrus Berry restores enough HP to survive another Water Pulse, which Starmie did use, while Starmie gets hit with another Seismic Toss. Now we can switch into Nidorino and tank another Water Pulse, but oh no, we get confused. But thanks to our Person Berry we heal the confusion. All that's left to do is tank another Water Pulse and hit it with D for the KO. That's how we beat Misty without losing a single Pokemon. We have our second badge and can finally move on. As you can imagine, I was very happy to win this battle, especially without losing someone, which could have easily happened with a single crit. Just to keep the berry train going, we find some useful berries on the SSN in the trash. Speaking of trash, we find our rival on SSN, and he wants to battle. He starts with Pidgeotto again, while we choose Geodude to start with. We receive a bit sand in the eyes, but still hit with Rock Throw for an easy KO. He miskicks again and sends out Charmeleon. It uses a smoke screen, but we still hit with Magnitude. Kadabra comes next, but Kadabra misses the Sable for some reason and we KO with 1 Magnitude easily. Last is Raticate, but we just tank Hyper Fang and hit with Brick Break for an easy win. Yeah, that's about it. Rival is done and we can move on to Lieutenant Surge. Lieutenant Surge is our next opponent, but we have Geodude, and there's not much to say. We just use Magnitude and KO every Pokemon. Double Team is used several times, like the Coward's Lieutenant Surge is, but it didn't change the fact that Geodude just destroyed him easily. Thanks, we level up and Geodude evolves into Graveler. With this new badge we can move on to Rock Tunnel to find another teammate, Onix. We catch it, of course, even though Onix is one of the weakest points of Bruno's team. One could argue there are 3 experience points, but the Rock Snake will play a very big role in this run. A little berry update. After Rock Tunnel we find a little field, in which we find some more berries. One of them is a Lumberry, the best berry most would say. Let's see if it works out for us. After taking a little break with some tea, our Machop evolves into Machoke. It's a very nice upgrade, which will be used right at the next gym and its leader Erica. We see Victreebel and start with Machoke. Victreebel uses Poison Powder, which is good for us because Machoke has guts, but I don't know how the damage will turn out, so we have a Patcher Berry equipped. Machoke evolves into a soccer player and kicks Victreebel very hard. Giga Drain drains a lot of HP, but we miss a Mega Kick, which is fair. We hit a lot of it this run. We see another Poison Powder, but this time the damage buff will help us to defeat Victreebel. After kicking Victreebel off the field, gain a level up again, and we see Tangela next. Machoke uses yet another Mega Kick and Tangela is defeated. Vileplume is last, but we are also low in HP thanks to Poison. But we just don't care and kick Vileplume right into the face, but unfortunately it survives. And Giga Drain hits, but we are still poisoned. But it doesn't matter and we survive. It shouldn't be in Super Potion range anymore, which means we use the safer option in Mega Punch and Vileplume is defeated. Erica is done, we receive another badge and move on to Giovanni. But before that, our Onix evolves into Steelix. I know, that isn't an Onix anymore. But in a rematch for Fire Red and Leaf Green, Bruno has a Steelix as well, so it's fine. We find Giovanni in his hideout and he would like to battle. Did you know that Bruno was evil in the Adventures manga series? That should explain why he sucks so much. Giovanni starts with Onix and we start with Machoke. We just use a Brick Break and Onix is done. Next is Rhyhorn. We do the same again and Rhyhorn is also defeated. Last is Kangaskhan, but what can it really do? We just use 2 Brick Breaks and it is defeated as well. Very nice to be able to buy Brick Break and Dig for that matter in the Celadon store. I like it. We steal a Sylph Scope and move on to the Pokemon Tower. Inside the tower we find our rival again. This time we want to show off our Steelix and start with it. Pidgeotto loves to troll and we see Sand Attack, but still hit with Rock Throw for a lot of damage. Next turn we miss with Dragon Breath, but hit the turn after that, defeating Pidgeotto. Charmeleon is next. Of course it uses Smoke Screen and we move underground, but miss, which is to be expected. Since this is too annoying, we switch into Graveler. We get hit with 2 smoke screens, but still hit with Magnitude and defeat Charmeleon in 1 hit. Execute is next, and we just switch into Machoke, get hit with Leech Seed. After that we hit with Mega Kick, but it isn't KO'd yet, and get hit by a Hypnosis. So we switch into Nidorina and lose a lot to Confusion. Of course we miss with Cut, but Execute misses as well. After that we miss again, I guess some small screen stays on the field or something, and then finally hit and KO Execute. So annoying. Kadabra is next, but that's the reason why we have Steelix and switch into it. Confusion did nothing, but Kinesis and our Rock Throw misses, which is fine I guess. Kadabra uses Disable to buy another turn, but we use Dig the turn after. Seeing a missed Kinesis again and hit for an easy KO in Kadabra. Last up is Gyarados and that is just a grind. And speed this up a bit. Essentially, we don't deal a lot of damage and Gyarados deals even less. But after a while Gyarados is defeated and we have survived yet another battle without losing any Pokemon. At the top of Pokemon Tower we find Mr. Fuji and rescue him, even though he feels otherwise. But he gives us the Pokeflute regardless, which allows us to continue our journey to Future City, in which we find one of the strongest Pokemon, Poliwag. Poliwrath was a part of the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee team as well. We catch it and after a while it evolves into Poliwhirl, and with the help of a Water Stone it evolves into Poliwrath. While being in Future City, we have a gym to do, and since it's based on poison types, we of course use Steelix against Koga, the trolling master. Bruno is not really one of the thinking type, so we use Brute Force as always. Koffing uses a lot of smoke screens, which means we can't hit with Steelix anyway, and that goes on and on until Koffing doesn't care anymore and uses Self-Destruct, which of course hits critical, because why should it? Next is Muk and we switch into Poliwrath and see a Minimize. We use Psychic, still hit and get a special defense drop, but Muk uses another Minimize. Psychic hits again, but it gives Koga the chance to use a potion, which he totally did next turn and we miss with Psychic. This goes on for a while, seeing another Hyper Potion, and at the end Sludge hits and poisons, which is very bad for us. So we switch out into Nidorino, easily tanking a Sludge. At that point we just use Shockwave until Muk is defeated because it always hits. Next is another Coughing, but we just switch into Graveler at that point. Coughing can't really do anything to us besides poisoning Graveler, and we can finally move on to Wheezing. Hoping not to see another crit, we switch into Steelix, resisting a Sludge. At that point there's not much left to do, we use Dragon Breath until Wheezing is paralyzed and then use Rock Throw until it is defeated. With that Koga is done, we receive a level up and receive another badge. We could use Surf from now on, but we should do other things first. In the Fighting Dojo we beat every single one of them easily, and we choose Hitmonchan because we could use the Elemental Punches. And we evolve Graveler into Golem, a very nice Pokemon, one I would nearly never see without doing this specific run. And also Machoke evolves into Machamp. With that the full team is assembled, and we just have to beat some bad trainers again, for example the rival in Silph Co. He's usually pretty hard, so let's see how hard he is against Bruno, the strongest trainer between all 10-year-olds. We start with Golem against Pidgeot. We use Rock Blast but don't KO, turn after we do KO, but got only a bit of damage. Thanks for no Sand Attack this time. Execute is next and we switch into Poliwrath because it has one of my favorite moves. Sunstorm makes this a bit harder, and after a small confusion damage we hit with Ice Beam for a lot of damage. We see another confusion and of course we get confused, and naturally we hit ourselves in confusion. I hate this. We switch into Steelix and get nearly no damage. A tackle is enough and the rival chooses Charizard next. We switch into Golem again and see a Flamethrower for a lot of damage. Special defense is the premium here. Charizard uses Smoke Spear and of course we miss with Rock Blast. Another Flamethrower puts us in the danger zone. But we finally hit with Rock Blast, completely destroying Charizard in the process. Gyarados comes next, but we still switch out of course into Nidorino while Bite does no damage. I thought it has a water type move at this point, but maybe not. We use Shockwave and Gyarados is easily defeated. Last is Alakazam. We switch into Steelix and see a Future Sight. Alakazam uses Core Mine while we dig on the ground. Then another Core Mine and we don't KO. Future Sight hits for a lot of damage. Alakazam uses another Future Sight for some reason and we use Tackle, which didn't KO. There's no reason to ever use Tackle in this situation, but okay. Instead of using any relevant move, Alakazam chooses to use another Future Sight, but we KO with another Tackle. The battle against Alakazam was so bad, we should have lost the Pokemon here, but okay. Let's move on to Giovanni. Giovanni is like Bruno, not really a problem, so we just start with Poliwrath against Nidorino. For some bizarre reason we thought Surf would be better than Psychic and just use 2 against Nidorino to beat it. Nidoqueen is next. Surf is the real play here and we use it to KO it in one hit, even though it was a critical hit. Kangaskhan comes up and we switch into Golem, seeing a fake out for no damage at all. We see 2 Tail Whip, but Kangaskhan is defeated after 2 Brick Break. Last is Rhyhorn, but as you can imagine we just use 2 Magnitudes, while Rhyhorn can't do anything to us anyway. That means Giovanni is defeated and we move on to one of the harder battles of any given run. At least I think it's pretty hard. Of course, it's Sabrina. One might think that Sabrina will win out to lose to Bruno because Bruno looks like someone who fails elementary school. But we have Steelix and that one needs to work real hard here. We start with Steelix against Kadabra. We use 2 deck to KO Kadabra, while Kadabra setups a Reflect and a Future Sight, which we have to keep in mind. Mr. Mime comes next. We see a Core Mine while we dig underground. Reflect wears off and Future Sight wants to hit but can't. Dig does a lot of damage. We want to use another one, but Mr. Mime hits with Psybeam for a lot and confuses of course. Steelix also hits itself in confusion. What else did we think would happen? Mr. Mime uses a Baton Pass into Venomoth while we dig underground. We hit and deal a lot of damage. Of course, right afterwards we hit ourselves again. Yeah, sounds about right. We finally snap out of confusion and KO Venomoth with Rock Throw, while we are very low on HP thanks to confusion. I love it. Mr. Mime comes out again and we just risk it, going low to 9 HP. We switch into Golem, hoping for a non-damaging move, but Psychic hits for way over half. Already saying goodbye to Golem, we press a Magnitude, but Alakazam just uses a Future Sight for some reason and we just win. Yes, that was very lucky indeed. The real play would have been to sacrifice Steelix, I think, but all's well that ends well. Skipping some traveling and stuff, we face Blaine, the 7th gym leader. We all know that he has absolutely no chance against us, considering we have Poliwrath and Golem to use. That's why we just use a Poliwrath to spam Surf until Blaine is defeated. Thinking about it, since I use the arbitrary rule that I have to use the hidden machines on my team, I think there's never a team which could have a problem against him, right? Anyway, we just move on to the final gym. Since the level cap is a bit weird with Giovanni, we don't use a full cap here. But the strategy stays the same, using Poliwrath and mashing the surf button until the battle is over. We get some damage while battling him, but it is what it is. Giovanni always struck me as a weird gym leader, since the type is just so bad in Kanto, because of the amount of grass, psychic and of course water types. He is defeated after several turns of surfing and we move on to the final bit of the run. Before we can battle the Elite Four, we have a little battle against a rival. The level cap is based on Lance's Dragon Knight and we use a bit of the cap because losing here would be so bad, but let's see how it goes. We start with Golem against Pidgeot, essentially the same matchup since Nugget Bridge. First we see Feather Dance, which is very annoying. Afterwards we first move with Rock Blast, then need 2 of them to beat Pidgeot. But that's fine since we received no damage in the process. Execute is next and we switch into Poliwrath, but Execute is serious and charges for Solar Beam. That's an easy switch into Nidorino, tanking the Solar Beam. Since Nidorino has no good moves here, we switch into Steelix and see Stun Spore. The Steelix uses Crunch and crits for an easy KO and Execute. Gyarados is next and this time it has a water move. We switch Steelix out for Poliwrath and see a Leer, which I didn't expect to be frank. Poliwrath uses several Ice Beam and we see another Leer, a Rain Dance, and a Hydro Pump which did nothing to us. After some time Gyarados is defeated and Charizard is next, I assume because of flying against fighting type. We see a wing attack and oh boy, we nearly lose Poliwrath. But since Rain is still up, we just use a Surf and Charizard is done. Alakazam is next and we just switch into Steelix, our Alakazam check. But of course we aren't paralyzed once, but twice, while Alakazam boosts his status. After that we are finally able to hit with Earthquake and defeat Alakazam. Last is Rhyhorn, but we switch into Machamp, which didn't get any action up to this point, and we defeat it easily with 1 Brick Break. That's it for the rival, and we have only the Elite Four left. First Elite Four member is Lorelei, the Ice-type trainer. Which is very nice for our Machamp, so we start with our Gym Bro against Dewgong. We use 3 Bulk Up to flex our muscles, since Dewgong doesn't deal that much damage anyway. Safeguard doesn't matter to us at all, but Ice Beam is not very nice. We think about the next move and get very greedy with another Bulk Up. Dewgong sets up Hail, which might be bad. After that we just use Brick Break and easily defeat Dewgong. I don't think the crit mattered at all. Slowbro is next and Hail is still active. We use Mega Punch and for some reason it's not a KO. Very sad for us. But we are lucky and Slowbro uses Amnesia and Hail doesn't KO as well. Laura uses a Full Restore while Machamp uses Brick Break because of the accuracy. Hail is still a thing, but we just use another Brick Break and Slowbro is down. Next is Cloyster. 1 Brick Break is all we need to beat Cloyster. Jinx is next and she uses Lovely Kiss, and of course we came prepared with her berry. Wake up and use Brick Break for an easy KO. Lapras is last, but 1 Brick Break easily defeats it as well. The first member is defeated and we move on. We can just move on to the next member, Agatha. But what would happen if we battle ourselves? I assume we just throw in Poliwrath and use a combination of Surf and Psychic until we win. Agatha is a very annoying encounter, so let's see how far we can go. We start with Steelix against Gengar. The first Gengar can't do anything against us, besides being annoying with Double Team. But hitting with 2 Crunch is enough and Gengar is defeated, while Steelix is at nearly full HP. Haunter comes next. Haunter misses with Hypnosis, but Crunch doesn't KO, and for some reason the Ghost type misses again, while Crunch easily defeats it. Very lucky for us. Next is Golbat. Golbat uses Confuse Ray and we hit ourselves of course. I don't like this and switch into Golem, tanking a Bite. Another Confuse Ray, another hit ourselves. Bite for some damage, but hitting ourselves again. Another Bite, this time a flinch. Finally we can move, but miss of course. We switch back into Steelix at this point and get bitten again. Confuse Ray again, because why not? But this time we hit and paralyze with Dragon Breath. Steelix snaps out of confusion and hits with Crunch and get a special defense drop while we see a Bite again. We use Crunch again for some damage and Golbat receives a Full Restore. After that we spam Dragon Breath and Crunch until Golbat is defeated. Next is Arbok. The Cobra uses Bite and we flinch of course. This time we can move and hit with Earthquake, which easily KOs Arbok. Agatha uses her last Pokemon Gengar. Gengar is faster and hits with Hypnosis, which is very bad. We switch into Poliwrath and see a Shadow Ball for some damage. Hypnosis misses and we hit with Psychic for a lot of damage. And even see the Citrus Berry. Another miss with Hypnosis and we hit again with Psychic for the KO. That means Agatha is defeated finally. Only 2 battles remaining, one of them is Lance. And since we never used it before, we try out Hitmonchan, which should be fine at this battle. Lance starts with Gyarados and Intimidate won't matter because we plan to only use special attacks this battle. We hit with Thunder Punch and it doesn't KO. And that was also a crit? What is happening? Oh, Hitmonchan has no special attack at all. Okay, that explains it. but Gyarados only uses Dragon Rage, which does exactly 40 damage. Full Restore is used, but we hit with Thunder Punch into the yellow. Maybe we hit a bit too low at first. Another Thunder Punch and Gyarados is defeated. Aerodactyl is next. We switch into Golem and easily tank a Wing Attack. Engine Power is used, but we don't care and hit with Rock Blast for enough hits to KO Aerodactyl. Next is Dragonair. Safeguard doesn't matter and we nearly KO with Earthquake. Dragon Rage doesn't matter again and Earthquake KOs Dragonair. Dragonair 2 comes next. It uses Outrage and ouch, that's too much for me. But Earthquake doesn't KO again. We switch into Steelix and tank another Outrage. Another Full Restore gets used while we hit with Earthquake back into the yellow. Another Safeguard for some reason and we KO with Earthquake. Last up is Dragonite. The pseudo-legendary uses Outrage for a lot of damage and we attack with Crunch for some reason. Another Outrage puts us in a danger zone, but we hit with Dragon Breath for a little bit of damage. We switch into Poliwrath and Dragonite decides to hit itself. One Ice Beam later and Dragonite is defeated. With that, Lance is defeated and we are at the final battle of the run. We didn't lose any Pokemon up to this point, which is honestly amazing. But can Bruno really defeat the game that easily? Let's find out. This time we start with Poliwrath instead of Golem against Pidgeot. We get hit by Aerial Ice for too much damage and hit with Ice Beam for over half. Pidgeot uses an annoying sand attack, but we still hit with Ice Beam and KO Pidgeot. Good start. Next is Charizard. We switch into Golem and get hit with a bit of damage. Fire Blast misses and we hit with Rock Blast for the easy KO. Could have gone way worse, I guess. Rhydon is next. Since I don't know what Rhydon can do, we switch into Nidorino, but we only see a scary face. We are now slower and lose Nidorino to an Earthquake. Thanks Nidorino. Without you, we would not even beat Misty. Poliwrath comes next and we use Surf for an easy KO, but the rival chooses Alakazam next. We switch into Steelix and tank a Psychic for a lot of damage. Another Psychic and we are in a danger zone, but Earthquake hits and doesn't KO. Okay, that's a real problem now. The rival uses a Full Restore, but we hit it in the yellow again. Alakazam retreats for some reason to Gyarados. Real talk here. What's going on? Alakazam had an easy KO on Steelix. We check our team, but there's no reason to switch now. Steelix is done. We press on a move, but Gyarados hits with Hydro Pump and easily KOs Steelix. I like Steelix in this run, I really do. We choose Hitmonchan next. Thunder Punch hits for below half as expected and Dragon Rage is used for some weird reason. Another Thunder Punch and Gyarados is low, but uses a Trash which puts us in a danger zone. Next turn Gyarados is defeated and we see Alakazam next. We are always slower, that means we can use Mach Punch and wow! It just barely didn't KO. Psychic hits and KOs Hitmonchan. We didn't use him much, but it will be better next gen anyway. We choose Golem next. The rival used another Full Restore, but it doesn't matter at all and we KO with Earthquake. Executor comes next. I thought about it for a bit, but Executor is the last Pokemon and Golem can't do anything here anyway. That means we have to say goodbye and let him stay in. One Giga Drain easily defeats Golem. I never used Golem before, it was really nice having one. Poliwrath comes out. We use Ice Beam and it does over half, but we see Light Screen. Using Poliwrath at this point was quite stupid, considering Giga Drain. Because of the light screen, we'd switch into Machamp and get hit by Sleep Powder. We still have Lumberry left, but I wasn't able to see that Machamp was the one to get hit by a status move, sorry for that. We stay asleep for one turn, but wake up the next one and shatter the light screen to set up the Ice Beam KO. Another Sleep Powder puts us to sleep again. Another turn of sleep and we get very low, but this is it. Giga Drain and Machamp is defeated. Machamp was interesting in this run, but mono fighting doesn't really do anything. Poliwrath comes up and we all know the battle is over. We press on Ice Beam and Executor is defeated. With that, the run is over and Bruno beat Fire Red and Leaf Green as a hardcore Nuzlocke. This was a wild ride. We didn't lose a single Pokemon right up to the last battle of the game, and it came down to the last Pokemon of our team. Bruno's bad, but Bruno's team is really bad. Even with all the upgrades, it barely works out. I didn't show all the tries, it didn't work out for me, but it was quite a few. Most of them at Misty for sure. Anyway, if you liked what you saw, please consider clicking on the like button, and if you want to see more of that, maybe subscribe to my channel. If you didn't like what you saw, thank you for watching. I put some more stuff on the screen and hope to see you next time.